In my time, every string player so could own an Italian instrument or a very fine French violin, a Villaume, a Lupo. They were obtainable, and they were even feasible with a certain amount of planning, depending upon the instrument itself. These violins are now, most of the great ones are in the hands of collectors or a few famous soloists, or someone like myself who bought a Stradivari violin in 1947. It took me 7 years to pay for it, but I managed to do it. Those violins are nowhere around. And now that we have this marvelous young crop of players, they have no instruments to play and to speak of. When they are playing a modern instrument, they're good, and the youngsters make them sound, it's not the old Italian violin, which was, there's such an enormous group of Italian violin makers. It was not only Stradivari, you have your Gallianos and Gobetti, and in the French you have Villaume, Lupo, and most of the orchestras used to have membership always. There was someone around who had a beautiful fiddle, another one maybe not so beautiful but of good make, and old. And there was a time that Eugene Ormandy, for any incoming new string player to the Philadelphia Orchestra, he had to have proof that he had a violin, an Italian violin. And if he didn't, the orchestra would say, all right, now you get one, and we'll help you finance it. We'll take out a certain amount of money from your check if it's difficult. And no more. They're so expensive. Oh my God. Even, a violin bow of the first order, a good violin bow, which I used to see them floating around. Today cost $12,000. And students who come here, they buy a bow for $1,000 that I wouldn't have played baseball with years ago.
Yeah.
That is the sad part also.
I remember when I was in a chamber music class here with Mr. Shebrick, he expressed the idea that a good violin has a soul of its own. And do you find some truth in that?
I think so.
Or character,
It's, you see, the soul is dormant until the player, by drawing his bow, depending how beautifully he draws his bow, the violin suddenly says, "Oh, I met my master, and I'll give you all I have, but you have to cooperate."
I'm not that knowledgeable about the makes of violins, but that's a fascinating topic, how they chose the varnishes and cut the wood and everything. Do you find any makes in particular the best? Certainly Stradivarius. What are the very best, and what makes them the best?
My dear friend, if I knew, I would tell every violin maker, if I only knew. And if they knew, they would tell me. But many of them think they know. They've all discovered the secret. There was no secret of Stradivari. The man was a genius. He worked with crude tools and made the most perfect instrument in the world. Some people think it's the varnish. Others think it's the thickness of the wood. Well, they've tried everything. They have, with modern technology, you can take a little tiny piece of varnish and just put it under a microscope and study it. And you'll get all there is there for you to learn. I mean, what's the secret when you have a violin and you can see it and examine it? I just think that there was a certain era, and like the Baroque period in furniture and whatever they did, they just disappeared. It was a great time in the history of the world, And I don't know. There are some violin makers who make very good instruments today, and most of them don't even claim that it's as good as Stradivari. No, they know, but they make very good violins, and we don't know. They say, well, let's wait 100 years. I believe that the violins of Stradivari and Del Gesù, Guarneri Del Gesù, sounded marvelous from the very beginning. I believe it. Because we know how famous Stradivari was in his own day.
In his own
Sure. Day. You know, the King of Spain sent a courier to Cremona with an order of 4 instruments, 2 violins, viola and cello of Stradivari. And he told the courier to stay in Cremona until they were finished. It took over a year, and he came back with them. Mm-hmm. I saw those instruments in Spain, in Madrid. I tried them, except for the cello. The viola was something incredible. Oh, it was the most wonderful voice you ever heard. Mm-hmm. And they were all inlaid, decorative.
Oh.
The sides were all inlaid. Beautiful, gorgeous, even to look at, beautiful. And I made a pilgrimage there 2 years ago. I taught at the Britain Bear School in Alderborough. I forgot to put that down. And my grandson went with me because I'd never been to London. I once played 1 concert in London with the Cleveland Orchestra. We didn't see anything. We had a rehearsal and we left the next day, and a concert the next day we left. But I took my grandson just for the trip. I spent 2 weeks in London. We spent 2 weeks in London. Then I went to Alderborough and he went home by himself. Mm-hmm. My grandson is very much interested in violin and violins and the reconstruction and all that. So one day, we went everywhere. We went to Stratford and Avon to see the Shakespeare home. We saw everything in London, the Royal Museum and the Tower of London, whatever there was to be done. Then one day I said to my grandson, I said, David, you know, you can take your camera and do anything you wish today. I'm going to Oxford. I want to see the Messiah square. He said, Grandpa, so do I. And we went there together. And it's a room that Hill, the great violin dealer and violin maker of London, it's in the Forum, it's all the Stradivari. This, the great Hill, William Epworth, I think was his name, Hill, who had the Messiah Stradivari, he gave it to the government of England and Britain. And not only that, but the whole room was full of the most beautiful inlaid harpsichords, decorative harpsichords. There were about 3 or 4 of those. And a Stradivari violin, 3/4 size, made for a child. It said for a royal child. I don't know which royal child. It was so gorgeous. It had the original neck and the original fingerboard. And also it was inlaid. And it was gorgeous. It was the same year as mine, as my violin. And it looked like the same slab of wood. But it was so beautiful. And there were some wonderful bows and instruments, viola da gambas and guitars. You know, Stradivari made many guitars.
I didn't know.
Oh, many guitars. And they were not the same shape as the present, they were much smaller. And Paganini was a terrific guitarist. Did you know that?
Yeah, he composed for guitar.
Like many works, about 10 quartets for violin, viola, cello, and guitar. And then in some of the works that we now play with piano were written for guitar. And he played like a virtuoso, you know.
Thinking about what we've been talking about, it's just amazing when you think about coming from a place with no hot water in New York, and now here we are.
Yes.
So how do you explain that?
Well, I worked for it. And I was lucky.
Is there such a thing as good fortune?
Oh, I believe in it. I believe in it. I think that if Dean Bain hadn't gotten me in Albuquerque, he would have approached someone else. I happened to be in my room at the time. And George Zell came as guest conductor to Detroit. And he just said, "You're my concert master, and that's it. I don't want to hear anybody else."
No,
Now, supposing I was sick, I wouldn't have played that concert. That's what I mean by good luck. I don't say that I got to be tenor at the Metropolitan on the basis of good luck. I mean, you work. You have to prove yourself always. Every concert every rehearsal with Zell was a new adventure. Every concert, a public examination.
Never took it.
No, I don't never take anything for granted anyway.
Yeah.
I pick up the violin and I start playing scales like I never played before.
Were your parents hardworking?
No, my father was ill, he couldn't work.
Oh.
And the family helped support. My oldest brother was a violinist. That's how I started.
So you were helping support them already at an early age?
Well, yes, when I had to, yes, when I began working. Sure, that was fine. I'm very proud of it. They did a lot for me. My parents were an inspiration to me. They encouraged me, took care of my health, my education, and at the same time, thank God, they didn't think that I was God's gift to music either.
Oh.
You know, they didn't. I wasn't spoiled, and I had a certain, I think to this day, even a certain amount of a modesty that I don't think anything is coming to me. I don't take anything for granted. And I had a wonderful wife. It's been nice.
Yeah. It's so nice to be with you.
It's
if there
my
were
pleasure.
no article.
Thank you very much.
One last thing is, it's in your studio. There's such a warm feeling.
With all this, well,
with
you
you in it.
this
I
is
mean,
nice. Look, these are all original autographs of the greats of the violin: Paganini, Wieniawski, Ernst, Sivori, the only pupil of Paganini. This is extraordinary. That's one of Joseph Joachim, signed 2 days after he made his debut in London, playing the Beethoven Concerto with Mendelssohn conducting. And this is Joachim in old age. And this is Vieuxtemps, Bazzini, and I have more on the other wall. And these are pictures all autographed to me of the great figures of this.
Yeah, there's Mr. Heifetz.
Heifetz, the genius of the century.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was from Auer, wasn't he?
Yes,
but in Russia.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah. I idolize him.
Yeah.
And he's had a wonderful influence on string playing. And everyone, violinists, violists, cellists,
by raising the standard.
so high, and that magnificent execution. Oh, God, what a man.
May I tell you, maybe you know the story, but I read a little story about Vladimir Grafman in Gary Grafman's book. Someone asked...
Yeah, I know.
You know. He said, how did Heifetz sound?
Played like Heifetz. I got the same answer once. Yeah, that's nice. Gary doesn't play anymore.
Because of
his hand. Can you imagine?
I thought it had gotten better for a while. But...
Not that I know of. And Fleischer the same way. He made a comeback right back again.
It was Fleischer that made a little comeback, yeah. What are you looking forward to? More teaching?
I'll take every day at a time. I have a schedule. I'll try to meet my schedule. And if they're sick and tired of me here, I'll leave any time they want me to, and I'll leave with a sense of gratitude and affection.
Thank you.
I thank you. My guest, it was fun.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I hope you can get some sense out of it all.